This is a Red FM Vancouver podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe for more great content. For further info, log on to redfm.ca.
Minister of Education Rob Fleming, ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਨ. Minister, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Please, tell us, what would you like to say to the parents?
Well, what I would say to parents is this is a back-to-school year like any other, obviously, and I think what I would ask parents to do is in learning about what school's like for their child today is take a moment to thank the 70,000 men and women who work as principals and vice principals and support staff and teachers in our school system. A lot of them have sacrificed weeks of their summer break, in some cases months, to come back and put together timetabling and create a safety plan for schools that is district-wide and all the way down to individual schools. And, today it's okay for kids to feel a little bit anxious. Today is a day for them to get information about how they'll conduct themselves safely and with being mindful of others and being familiar with hand hygiene routines and all the different bell schedules. There's a lot of information to absorb. School's going to be quite a bit different today, but to learn all of that, and of course there's going to be lots of excitement and laughter again, which is great to see. We've had kids back in school in some parts of BC already, and it's gone extremely well. Parents just saying, look, it's been 6 months since they've been around other kids and had caring adults like teachers and their support staff part of their lives again. So that excitement as well as anxiety, I think, is going to be a feature right around BC today.
God forbid if there's any kind of outbreak in any school, would you be informing the parents? Would you be telling clearly which school is infected?
Yeah, so what we have done in terms of preparing for this, and we have to be prepared. We've seen this in other parts of the world, even countries as safe as British Columbia, in terms of low community transmission rates, have had some cases of COVID in schools. We've talked to the Danish Ministry of Education and others. But public health has created, through our regional health authorities, liaisons with every school. There are procedures about what to do if somebody tests positive and say they brought it in from the community, and then were discovered that they were at school for a period of time, to assess and do an immediate investigation into who may have been exposed, to take steps, in some cases, to self-isolate.
So what do you tell the public or not?
I think it depends. If it's an outbreak of two or more cases, typically public health does talk about where that outbreak has occurred, like in a long-term residential care facility, for example. You've reported on those. If it were an individual case, perhaps not. It depends really what steps need to be taken. Does the school need an additional deep cleaning? Is there a part of the building that's going to be closed for the day? But any parent whose child was put at risk would absolutely be notified by public health. It's that balance that Dr. Henry and her team do about protecting an individual child's right to privacy who may have contacted COVID with the public need to know about where that may have happened.
So basically it won't be a public information. The teachers or the public health will inform the parents individually. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on the seriousness is what I'm saying.
Two or more cases.
Yeah, individual cases perhaps not, but again, it would depend on the circumstances. But the investigation would determine all of the steps we need to take. And look, we have excellent experience and expertise here in British Columbia on managing outbreaks. We've had some in different workplaces. We've had some in residential care facilities, and they've been contained, and we've stopped that from transmitting to the broader community. So if, heaven forbid, that happens in a school, we're prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And you heard Minister Dix, the Premier, and Dr. Henry yesterday talk about all of the aspects of the fall pandemic strategy, tripling the testing capacity, 2 million cold and flu shots to try and keep all of that. And in terms of the staff being hired for contact tracing, speed is of the essence. That's how you bend the curve down. That's how you beat back the level of COVID. And again, look, one of the layers of protection that's most important in BC, even though we did see a little bit of an uptick over the summer, is low community transmission rates. That's one of the things we have going for us here in British Columbia.
Please tell us how the money is being spent that you received from the federal government, over I think it's 121 million. So are you giving school board free rein? They can do whatever they want?
We're passing on the instructions and our understanding from the federal government on the types of things that it should be invested in. And we thank them for that investment because it complements the COVID-19 specific funding that the province provided. So it could be used, for example, to support remote learning options, which require additional teaching staff. It could be spent on hiring even more custodians than have already been hired for additional cleaning schedules, or bus attendants in rural districts where they may have an additional staff member besides the driver to manage the kids and space them out in terms of the seating plan. It could be used on hard materials like plexiglass, additional hand washing stations, outdoor education structures like tents and those sorts of things. As long as it's a one-time COVID-related expense, we're encouraging districts, and we flowed the money to them, to identify any local priorities, and that's based on discussion with their stakeholders, teachers, support staff, parent organizations. Spend it on things that enhance the very strict health and safety protocols that are already in place.
So finally, in schools, the physical distance of 6 feet has been compromised to 3 feet now. Is that correct?
Yes. Although 2 meters between kids that are in different learning groups is an important principle in the school system, and also wearing masks for middle and secondary school students. Anytime you're outside of your learning group in contact with another student, you keep physical distance, you wear a mask. That's really, really important. Those will be supplied to teachers and staff, and kids of all ages, in fact. And I expect we'll see a lot of mask wearing at all times during the school day. It'll be up to students and staff to make that determination whether they're comfortable with that. But look, the 1 meter standard in terms of how you space desks out is very common in lots of countries. We liaised with the Danish Ministry of Education to look at their school plan. They typically have about 24 students in a classroom, 1 meter apart. That's an underlying health principle in our guidelines as well. So, it's the layers of protection that are really important. We've already talked about low community transmission being the strongest. It's also hand hygiene. It's also never coming to school if you present any symptoms of the sniffles or what have you. Stay home, wait for those symptoms to clear, get a test if that's something that you should do after consulting 811 or the healthcare system. And that's a very, very strict prohibition this year that's part of the new normal.
Minister, anything in closing?
Just a huge thank you to all the parents who've been very patient awaiting information from the school system that's very specific and direct to their families, and a thank you to the parents who've had conversations with their kids, getting them ready to go back to school. I know that a lot of kids have felt isolated. They've felt their mental health has deteriorated. It's been a long, long time since we got back to school, but today is the day to get re-engaged, to get excited, learn about how to stay safe and look after one another, and then start the school year successfully. So just a huge thank you to everyone who has been part of our provincial effort. Teachers have done an excellent job getting the school classrooms prepared. They certainly have, and the teaching profession deserves tons of thanks from everybody in British Columbia. Maybe we should bang pots and pans for them this fall as we get into the school year. Principals and vice principals too, and of course our support staff, those that work with kids of diverse abilities and those who keep our schools clean and drive kids to school on the buses, everybody who's part of the school system, right up to the superintendents who've been really, really innovative and communicating really well with families. We can be proud of their efforts. Minister, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Talk to you again.
Thank you for listening to another Red FM podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe and check out our Red FM Canada YouTube channel. For further info, log on to our Red FM social media platforms or visit redfm.ca.